All right, so speaking of which, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will this afternoon deliver the medium-term budget policy statement. Expectations are quite high as the country grapples with sluggish economic growth as well as high unemployment. We're now joined by Economist Xhanti Payi to discuss what to expect from Godongwana. Xhanti, good to have you as always. Thank you so much for your time this morning. What do you think South Africans should actually expect from this medium-term budget speech from the Finance Minister?
Good morning. Look, I think we're going to have to expect a very practical discussion about where we are and really where we're going. And I think, as we know, that this is actually an outlook over the next 3 years. And there are three things really. Everybody has talked about the poverty line, the devastation of COVID-19, and certainly what we must do about it. And of course, some people have talked about the basic income grant. And of course, the minister himself has been mooted at talking about this so-called family grant. So there has to be something there about social protection and how people are actually going to be sustained as we grapple to create employment. And then speaking of employment, I think certainly there will be something about, it's just about how we should actually think about policies towards employment and how we go forward in terms of how we think about employment creation, especially for the youth. And then I would be very surprised if we did not have something around Eskom and how we fund Eskom. I think sustainably, there's no way we're going to get around not putting more money into Eskom if we're actually going to continue on this path. One of the things that has happened, of course, that Eskom keeps going to the regulator to ask for more increases. They struggle to get the increases they want or they need. And therefore, they are going to be coming back then to the government or the fiscus asking for more. And each year, we always pretend as if nothing is going to happen, but the government always tries to find something. And then, of course, I heard you were talking about debt earlier, and I think debt is going to be one very, very, very important thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I suppose it's fair to also say the minister clearly facing a challenge here in presenting, his strategy, because it's almost like you can't please everyone. So where do you ensure that you allocate enough budget, but at the same time, deduct where you need to without compromising on public services and service delivery, but also making sure that the money is allocated where it needs to be? A challenge I think the finance minister here can at least be expected from his statement.
I think you're quite right, and I think that's exactly it. This is about balancing risks. On the one hand, there is, a lot of people, there's been a big public debate around the issue of debt in South Africa, but certainly we have a problem with debt, and we have to balance it against investing for growth. And so it is not possible to actually ignore that. So he's going to talk about, how do we, on the one side, fund this investing for growth, investing for employment, investing to make sure that we've got a stable power system that can actually meet our needs, because that's very important. And then at the same time, making sure that we're investing in young people, that's also important, but not so much in such a way that if we don't invest, we end up, of course, not able to pay this debt, because the unfortunate thing here is that we have to invest in order for us to be able to grow. But if we don't, but we don't have the funds, so how do we balance that? Because if we continue to spend more and borrow more, that could actually end us in a fiscal crisis. So it is very, very important that the Minister of Finance actually also speaks very much to this balance, and also the balance, of course, of not leaving those most vulnerable in society behind. And that has been something that I think is of concern to many, many people. But I think that's going to be a very interesting thing for him to say. But our debt levels are extremely, extremely high. And lastly, I think, I'm hoping maybe he'll say something about how the government, in the Treasury at least, is thinking about this just transition. That has been such a big thing that everybody is talking about in terms of climate change, because that is also something that we need to fund if we are to actually succeed.
Very important point you mentioned in there. We'll have to leave it because that's all the time I had with you. But Xhanti Payi, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Just looking ahead into what can be expected from Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana come medium-term budget speech time from the Finance Minister.